everyone, my name is Amymone, and even though I get a lot of questions, I actually don't get that many about creating characters, but the few that I have gotten so far are actually really interesting, so here are the ones that I felt really deserved answers. Alright, the first one being, how do you keep your characters diverse from one another as well as yourself? I have a problem with making all my characters too much like myself. Actually, that was two questions. I just slammed them together. Okay, well, before I get to work, I make sure to assign each character two features. Something I hate about people and I don't understand, and then something that I like and I do understand. For example, let's say that you happen to hate people who don't know how to hold a real conversation, and let's also say that you happen to love people who loan money with no strings attached, and then you combine those two into one character. Or say you happen to hate people who talk about themselves too much, and you happen to love people who wouldn't hurt a fly, and you combine both into a character. You don't really have to know right away why these characters are like this, especially if you're planning on spending the whole story figuring that out, but they make for really good starting points to branch out on. Alright, the second question is, have you ever changed your mind about a character's personality in the middle of your story? No. Mostly because I personally try to know as little about them as possible and then understand their behaviors based off of their actions, their history, and their relationship with the plot as the story goes. I never had a moment where I wanted to just stop and overhaul a character's personality like in the middle. That really sounds like something I would do before jumping into the story, period. Really from the start I usually assign like the energy levels: high energy, low energy, moderate energy, undecided energy and like outlook levels, like positive, negative, moderate, undecided, and then just watch them bloom from there. The third question is, do you have a type of character that you like to create? Oh god, I noticed that I tend to make characters that either have a vast amount of money or are really good at either making money or managing it. But I could easily blame the nature of the plot for influencing this. Like if you actually look at my goals list on Patreon, all the stories that I listed have something to do with money. I mean, I do have other stories that don't require touching the topic of money at all. The trouble is none of them at the moment are on my Patreon's goal list. Alright, fourth question. Do you have any type of character you hate and would never put in your stories? Actually, yes. Those excessively destructive kinds of bad guys who kill for the pleasure of killing. I prefer if their reasons were intelligent, like killing for the sake of survival or revenge or power or whatever, but killing just because it's fun is uninteresting to me. Like, what's at stake for that kind of character? The risk of boredom? No thank you. I've honestly seen too much of that kind of character, which is probably why I turn a blind eye to them now. And the final question, do you have any characters you're ashamed of? Yes, and this is gonna be in his gallery commentary. I was ashamed of Fweepage. If you don't know who I'm talking about, you've probably been reading it Sky or Skyberg. That's actually not how it's pronounced. It's Swedish. And apologies to any Swedish people who think I'm pronouncing it wrong, but I've always learned if we are. So, Fweepage, that's literally how I've been pronouncing it. If you don't like it, please correct me in the comments below. Alright, I created him back in high school, and when I look at him, he just looks like some tween Fujoshi's yaoi fodder. When I chose to put him into Live NPC, I kind of wanted to respect my younger self's original design because I sort of see her as my collaborative partner since she created the vault of material I keep dipping into for all my projects. And even though I don't think like her anymore, I know there are people who do, and they really appreciate her taste. So I gave his design a little updating, trying to stay in his theme, which is why most of his clothing styles look so weird. The only thing he didn't keep was his hyper energetic yaoi boy stock personality. The story didn't need one of those. Alright. Okay, so that's all for the character related questions. Similarly to those, I actually don't get many questions asking me about my personal life or mental health or whatever, but the few that I have gotten are actually really interesting and answer worthy also. The first question being, How do you relax or recharge yourself after a long, hard day of making comics? To recharge, I usually try to stop every 2 hours and do some exercising. Like I usually go for a quick walk around the block with my phone and record audio notes, brainstorming my stories. My very favorite but very rare thing to do is walk to a department store and smell all the scented candles. It's insanely relaxing for me. My favorite smells are like vanilla and like all kinds of fruits. I hate the ones that just smell like some kind of like super fancy soap. No thank you. If it's the end of the day, I'll just crawl into my bed and die. I'm so tired at the end of the day. I literally just feel like I'm dying. All right, the second question is, how do you treat yourself after completing a project? That's actually a revision. The real question was, how do I celebrate completing a chapter? But I honestly don't celebrate chapters. I celebrate chapters by shutting up and working on the next chapter. All right, so to treat myself, I usually buy either more supplies, probably a little box of ice cream or mango lemonade. My sister hates mango anything, so I usually have to hold off on buying in favor of things that she does like. I don't usually celebrate at random. I much rather prefer celebrating during actual holidays or events like Eurovision. This way I'm killing two birds with one stone. When it comes to buying supplies, I usually load up on notebooks and sketchbooks. I have a ton of books I'm working through right now. If you've been following me on Twitter, you know that most of my books just got wet today and I was able to get them dry. I stuck them in the car in the hot sun. I really like these small, like narrow notebooks. They're really fun. Really fun to write in. Secondly, I have to constantly replace my ink products, like my printer or my pens. I have a lot of pens. In fact, I need to replace my multiliner soon. I already wore down my two smallest nibs. I need to save up for that. All right, the third question is, do you ever get depressed about working on your comic, and how do you beat it? Oh my god. I mean, it surprises me exactly how many webcomic creators actually do get depressed about what they're doing. I was reading a thread about it a while back, getting depressed about comics. Okay, well, I actually do get depressed about a lot of different things just because of my living situation in general. I mean, comic-related depression is just a small fraction of that depression as a whole. Like, now, I'm not really sure how I did it, but somehow I managed to program myself to work while I'm sad. Like, automatically I just start working to make the pain go away. Well, it does wonders to get each project completed. It really sucks when the project itself is making me sad and it just feels like I'm torturing myself. I think this is how I ended up just focusing on every character as a set of strategic shapes, like to cope with the misery of having to see them all the time. Which is helpful, but it's really bad when I try to look at fan art that people sent me. Like a few months ago, I got this picture of the boys and my brain tried to process them at the respective shapes that I assigned them. And the moment that it failed, I was literally like, damn, I drew these wrong. And like 5 seconds later, I was like, oh my god, I didn't draw any of this. This is fan art. Oh my god. Okay, which reminds me, to all of you who sent me fan art and asked me if I got it, yes, I have a collection of fan art that I've been sent over this past year. I have been hiding it because I've seen my friends' fan art get stolen and edited by art thieves, and I don't want people doing that to the art that I received. They can do that to my actual art. They've been doing that to my art for years, but not to my fans' art. That's just way too personal. Okay, that's all for today's questions. If you enjoyed the sound of my voice, subscribe for more audio entries. If you like my artwork, you can go find more of it on Tumblr, Twitter, and Tapastic. If you like what I do and want to help support, then feel free to donate to me via Patreon or PayPal. All the links are in the description below. Goodbye and thank you for watching.